Today we're going to talk about identifying verbs in sentences. And I need to warn you that verbs in the English language are a bit of a doozy. The reason why is because English is descended from languages that conjugate verbs differently from how we do. So in many of the languages from which English is derived, the verb itself will have the ending change to let us know who's doing the verb, when the verb is being done, if the verb is being done. But in English, we don't tend to change the end of the verb. Instead, we string a whole lot of verbs together. So it's possible to have a subject with multiple verbs, and that can make it more difficult to identify the verb. So the first concept I want you to understand is the infinitive. The infinitive's formula is to plus the verb. I like to think of the infinitive as the verb at rest. It doesn't have a subject who's doing it. So, for example, if I say to go, to be, to run, to choose, I'm not telling you who is going, who is being, who is running, or who is choosing. Those verbs do not yet have subjects. They're like parked cars. Once someone gets in and drives them, they're moving cars. But these verbs don't have anyone to drive them, so they're parked cars. So here are some examples of the verb to run attached to a subject. I run. So this is no longer an infinitive because the verb is being done by somebody, I. Notice that you can keep the verb in the infinitive if you add another verb connecting it to the subject. So you wouldn't say I to run. That wouldn't sound right. But you can say, I like to run. And then we've linked a verb to the subject, even though the verb is in the infinitive. Notice that you can do this with the gerund as well. Remember, the gerund is verb plus ing. I like running works because the word like is connecting the gerund to the subject. Remember also that you can take a verb, turn it into a gerund by adding ing, and then make it the subject of the sentence. So in this case, running is the subject of the sentence, and is the verb. So the first two kinds of verbs I would think of as the easier to spot verbs. The first one is the action verb, which is probably the verb that you encountered in high school. That's the one where it's anything that you could do. It's an action. Someone runs to the store. The bunny eats a carrot. Or we study for grammar. Those are all examples of action verbs. The other kind of verb is the compound verb, which is the same basically as a compound subject. It means two or more verbs joined with and, or nor. So you could say we run and jump, two verbs, right? She eats or sleeps. Now this is technically two verbs, even though she's only going to eat or sleep. But grammatically, we still have two verbs here. Or they neither hide nor lie. Now, technically, that means that they are not doing either of those verbs, but grammatically, both of those verbs are still the verbs attached to the subject. And then we have the harder to spot verbs. So, the first harder to spot verb is the linking verb. And a linking verb connects a subject to a description of the subject. It links the subject and the description. The first kind of linking verb is to be, and hopefully you recognize that to be is the infinitive. It doesn't have a subject yet. But we know that to be changes depending on who the subject is. I am, you are, she, he, it is, we are, you are, or they are. We can also put it into the past tense. He was, she was, they were. And then being and been are past versions of to be as well. And I'll show you what they look like in sentences later. So most basically, a linking verb links the subject, bunnies, to a description of bunnies, which is soft. So the linking verb would be are. The linking verb can also refer to how things meet your senses. Your 5 sentences would be feeling, looking, smelling, sounding, and tasting. So you could say bunnies feel soft, and in this case, feel is your linking verb. I would definitely not say bunnies taste good, although I have to admit I've never tasted a bunny, and I hope never to taste a bunny. But you could say carrots taste good, I think. The last linking verb is a little bit harder to wrap your head around, but I think that if you think about it, it makes sense. It has to do with perception, which is how something seems to be, how it turns, like the leaves turn red in autumn, how they remain, like evergreens remain green year-round, how they appear, how they seem, or how they become. So I could say bunnies appear soft, or bunnies seem soft, or bunnies become soft, although honestly they're always soft, so that wouldn't make any sense. The last kind of verb is the helping verb. So a helping verb is the kind of verb that we use when we want to explain more about the conditions under which the verb is being done. So, for example, again, we have to be, and here's where you start seeing us attaching verbs to other verbs. I am explaining grammar rules. Am is my helping verb and explaining, which tells you that it is literally happening right now. I am explaining grammar rules. Now, if later on somebody asked me what I was doing earlier today, I could put it in the past tense by saying I was explaining grammar rules. So these are helping verbs, and often they help you know when something is happening. Another kind of helping verb is versions of to do. To do is the infinitive. You'll see it as does, do, or did in the past. I did explain grammar rules. Now, both I did explain grammar rules and I was explaining grammar rules puts this event in the past. But you can feel that there's a slightly different kind of emphasis if I say I did explain the grammar rules. It's like I'm trying to really emphasize the point that it happened, and it's important that you understand that it happened. I could also say she does understand grammar rules. Now, this makes it sound like it continues to happen from the past into the present and into the future. So notice that to do also expresses the emphasis with which something is done and also when it is done. Then there is to have, which will appear as have, has, or had. I have explained grammar rules before. I have explained grammar rules. Or he had understood grammar rules, puts it into the past tense. And then we have these crazy verbs called modal verbs. Modal verbs express the possibility that the verb is going to happen. I can go to the store, doesn't mean I'm going to. I could go to the store. I may go to the store. I might go to the store. I must go to the store. I ought to go to the store. I should go to the store. I used to go to the store. I will go to the store. And I would go to the store. And as you hear those different versions of that phrase or the sentence, I hope you can see that there are different possibilities and different likelihoods of me going to the store. So here's some more examples. I could explain. Notice that modal verbs are always attached to another verb, right? I could explain grammar rules, or they should understand grammar rules. And now let me show you what I mean about how in English these verbs can be a real doozy. Look at this sentence. It would have been nice. Look at that. 3 verbs to express this idea. If she had been able to understand grammar rules. Look at all of these verbs strung together to express a very precise understanding of our feelings about this person learning grammar rules. So that was a lot to take in. I hope that it makes sense. Feel free to bring any questions you have to class, and good luck on the quiz.